Among the options on the beer wall at Walter's Sports Bar are Annapolis IPA, Green City IPA, Raised by Wolves, and Vienna Lager. Walters is located across the street from Nationals Park.
If you are a small business owner, I'm sure sometimes you feel like you need a marketing degree just to successfully market your business. I'm here to tell you that is not the case if you use Constant Contact. Constant Contact's award-winning platform has powerful marketing tools to make it easy to grow your audience, engage your customers, and sell more. In just a few clicks, you can launch a campaign that is tailored to your business and goals. Maybe you're launching a new product, or releasing a newsletter, or want to tell your customers about upcoming deals. Constant Contact can help with all of that. This includes email, SMS, social media, and so much more, all designed to be easy so you can sell more, raise more, and fast-track business growth. Plus, Constant Contact's award-winning customer service is there for guidance along the way to help you with things like customer lists, templates, and follow-ups. Get going and start growing your business today with a free trial at ConstantContact.com. Constant Contact, helping the small stand tall.
Two to Lindor. Check on the runner at second. The pitch. Swing a line drive right center field. This is trouble. Rosario has to play it on a bounce. It's a base hit, and Iglesias will come in to score. Mets lead it 3-1. The 0-1 to Gallo. Swing a high drive, deep right field. Back it goes. It's way back there, and it's gone. And the Nationals lead 4-3.
Now the runner at first goes. Pitch swung on, line to the right. A base hit for Torrens. Into the gap and rolling all the way to the wall. It's going to clear the bases. The Mets have themselves a big inning here in the top of the fifth inning. They had plated 4 runs. It's now New York 7 and Washington 4. Ottavino sets. It's slow delivery. Swinging a line drive. A base hit into right field. Garcia scores. Ruiz around second. It's a single to right. Jesse Winker drives in his 3rd run of the night. And it's now the Mets 8 and the Nationals 6. Runners lead first and third. No balls, 2 strikes. Runner at first goes, and the pitch is right down the middle. Strike 3 called. Fastball knee high. Not sure what he was thinking or looking for, but a 97-mile-an-hour fastball ends this game, and Diekman comes in for the Mets to close it out.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Tuesday, June 4th, 2024, along with MASNsports.com. Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. A wild game between the Nationals and New York Mets at Nationals Park on Monday evening in Game 1 of a 3-game series. An 8-7 Nats loss to the Mets. This was a game in which 13 of the 15 runs were scored over the first 6 innings. This was a game in which MacKenzie Gore struggled big time. This was a game in which the Nats rallied. The Nats scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th, but catcher Drew Millas struck out looking on 3 pitches with runners at the corners and 2 outs to end the game. The Nats for this regular season now are 27-32. We this season on the Nat Chat podcast are offering shout outs if you want to send a hello, a congratulations, a happy birthday, whatever, to someone who you care about. You can have us do that for you on this podcast. And the shout out can be downloaded and saved for as long as you like. Email Tim Shovers for details, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Mark, this was some game on Monday evening.
This was a throwback game, Al, and I don't mean that necessarily in a good way. This felt like a game from a few years back, extended well beyond the 3-hour mark. There was some ugliness along the way on both sides of the equation. It was a blow-up start from MacKenzie Gore, something we have not really seen this year. And yet, in spite of all that, I don't know about you, but I kept thinking to myself, okay, they're going to have a chance before this is all said and done. It didn't look like they would, and then they got to the 9th, and sure enough, they had a golden opportunity against a completely makeshift Mets bullpen, and they came close. They just didn't get that one last hit that they needed, and it's unfortunate. I think it would have changed the feeling all around on this one, but the boys battled this one. You have to admit that. They just were kept one hit short in the end.
The game never felt over. The game actually now is over. I'm still not sure that it is over. I mean, it was one of those games in which you felt like each run was not going to be the final run scored in the game. And to the point about the Mets, and we hit on this some on the previous installment of the podcast, the Mets are a really bad team right now. Their bullpen is a total wreck. And I know the Nats didn't finish the job in this game, but something tells me in future games in this series, we're going to see the Nats inflict some real damage on this Mets bullpen. Heck, the Nats did inflict at least some damage on the Mets bullpen in this game. But yeah, I think if you're a Nats fan, the biggest item from this game is what happened with MacKenzie Gore. And look, it's one bad start. He's had so many more good starts this season, but this really was one of his worst outings of the season. He officially allowed 6 runs in 4 and a third innings. Now, a decent chunk of those runs did come with him out of the game, but he left the game with the bases loaded, and he was not good in this game. He gave up 7 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 5 singles. He issued 4 walks, a hit by pitch, and 2 wild pitches. He could not find the strike zone. He recorded just 2 strikeouts. That is un-MacKenzie-like, a mere 2 strikeouts in 4 and a third innings. And he, over the 4 and a third innings, had a sky-high pitch count, 92 pitches, 58 strikes versus 34 balls. Heck, Gore over the first 2 innings threw 48 pitches, and you had the sense from the get-go that something was off. I mean, I go back to the top of the second. He only allowed a run. I give him credit for that, but man, the damage in that inning could have been so much worse. He in the inning gave up 2 singles and issued a walk, a hit by pitch, and a wild pitch. He just did not have it in this game.
No, he didn't have anything. Go look at his strike zone plot for the game. You can see where he was missing all over the place. Fastballs way up in the zone, changeups up, away, down, all of them. Curveballs and sliders just in the dirt, primarily almost every single breaking ball he threw, it felt like was in the dirt. And so it's not like he could at any point just say, okay, let me just turn to this one pitch that I know I have working for me. It felt like he had none of those. And then, like you said, he got out of that second inning. And the point we've been making about him this year is that even on the nights that he doesn't really have it, he has found a way to minimize the damage to get through it. And the way he got through that second inning at least had me thinking, okay, this could be another one of those. If that's his worst inning, he might get through this whole thing in one piece. And then unfortunately, he just never rediscovered it. Home run in the 4th. And then by the time you get to the 5th, he really had lost it. The pitch count was up. And I don't blame Davey at all for pulling him when he did with the bases loaded. I know it didn't work out with Dylan Floro after that, but I think the odds of MacKenzie Gore pitching his way out of that jam at that point were highly unlikely. He was working with Drew Millas for the first time this year, and he was making Millas work back there because there were a lot of pitches that didn't come anywhere close to where they were supposed to be.
And with Gore, I think this is a real next step in his development, the pitch inefficiency. It's something that we've talked about. It's something that was a real issue in this game. We saw the Mets from the get-go work up counts on Gore. We saw that lengthy walk that was drawn by Francisco Lindor. A lot of pitches were fouled off, and you can do that with MacKenzie Gore. That's something that has become quite clear. You can drive up his pitch count early, and the Mets, to their credit, did do that in this game.
It is, like you said, something that he's going to have to work on if he ultimately wants to become a guy who can go 7 innings for you consistently as opposed to just trying to maybe get through the 6th. You know, foul balls are a funny thing. I remember this used to happen to Max Scherzer sometimes, and you'd say, well, what do you do when that's happening, when a team is driving up your pitch count with foul balls? Because on the one hand, it's suggesting that you are making good quality pitches and they're not able to put them into play. They're only able to foul them off. On the other hand, it's kind of another thing of, as if you're saying, well, the pitchers aren't quite good enough to get them to swing and miss. It's sort of that middle ground. And where are you? And I've heard different answers from different pitchers about this, about you say, hey, you just got to stick with what you're doing. Once the ball leaves your hands, there's nothing you can do about it. If it's a quality pitch and they foul it off, you shrug your shoulders and try to do it again. I've heard others say, no, you do need to be better, more precise with it. If they're fouling off the fastball, say, you got to turn to something else to get them out. So I think that's something over time with experience that he can hopefully learn how to do a little bit better. But yeah, you could tell from the outset, Starling Marte had an 11 pitch at bat, ended in a single. It just felt like they were wearing him down from the get-go, and it was going to end up having to be a short night because of that.
And at least in some of his previous games in which he's been pitch inefficient, he had a lot of strikeouts. See, in this game had just 2. So you can't say, well, the pitch count was high, but that was in part due to him having a bunch of strikeouts. He did not have a bunch of strikeouts in this game. Well, Mark referenced what happened with the Nats bullpen in this game. So 4 Nats relievers officially combined to allow 2 runs, 1 earned in 4 2/3 innings, but that does not tell the story of what happened with Nats relievers in this game. Dylan Floro, he officially allowed 1 run in 2/3 of an inning. He came into the game in a really tough spot. Top of the 5th, bases loaded, 1 out, Nats up 4-3. But Floro did not come through. To the first batter he faced, gave up a 1-out RBI sac fly by Harrison Bader to tie the game at 4. But Floro then gave up a 2-out RBI single by the Mets' number 8 batter, Jose Iglesias, through the left side of the infield for a 5-4 Mets lead. And Floro then gave up a 2-out, 2-run opposite field double by the Mets' number 9 batter, Luis Torrens, to the right center field gap on an 0-2 pitch for a 7-4 Mets lead. Floro had the Mets' number 9 batter Torrens down 0-2, ended up giving up a 2-out, 2-run double. Jacob Barnes, he in the top of the 6th, allowed an unearned run. He gave up a 2-out opposite field RBI single by Starling Marte to right center field, and then made an errant throw to first base off the throw from center fielder Lane Thomas, going off J.D. Martinez as he was sliding into third base. Barnes was backing up third base, then made the poor throw. Martinez scored for an 8-5 Mets lead. Then the Nats bullpen ended up being fine the rest of the game. Jordan Weems was good. He tossed 2 scoreless innings with 3 strikeouts. And we did have a Tanner Rainey sighting. Maybe that was the wildest item of all from this game, that Tanner Rainey was allowed to pitch in the game. He made his first appearance in a game since May 21st. He tossed a scoreless top of the 9th. But things were rather rough with Dylan Floro and Jacob Barnes.
Well, yeah. All right. Let's start with Floro. And, consider not just the results, but look at the 4 batters he faced and how that all went, even the outs. Sacrifice fly to the warning track in center. RBI single, 2-run double, and a line out to left field. The Mets, for whatever reason, were on him in this game in a way that we really haven't seen, I think, hardly anybody do that to Dylan Floro this year. So you hope it's a one-time thing and that it was just a blip that this would happen to him. If not, he maybe needs to figure something else out. Yes, it's a tough spot, bases loaded, of course. You're just trying to get outs, minimize the damage. But, there was some solid contact there from them. And like you said, you have their number 9 hitter who had struck out in his first 2 at-bats. You have him down 0-2 and still give up a 2-run double. Something was off there for sure. Hopefully this was, like I said, a one-time occurrence for him. Jacob Barnes really killed himself with that errant throw. There was no reason for it. You got the ball in your hand. Runners aren't going anywhere. Hold on to it. Live to fight another day. And instead, arguably that's the difference in the game right there, that run that scored as a result of that. And as far as Rainey goes, you know what? He was actually pretty good. Velocity was all right, about 95. He threw 12 strikes and 9 balls, so better, I think, than we've seen from him. Didn't have those wild misses all over the place like we've seen, and ultimately a 0 on the board for him. Now, it had been 13 days since he last pitched, so who knew what to expect? To me, the fascinating part of this was, they didn't use him a couple nights ago when they were down 5 runs, and here they use him when they're down 3 in what I think everybody understood was still a winnable game. And what I wanted to know was this. They've got him warming up in the 8th inning as the Nats are batting, and they had a couple runners on. If they get to the point that they get it to within 2 runs or even 1 run, what are you going to do now? Are you going to bring in Finnegan, who's also warming, in case they tie the game or take the lead? Or are you going to put Rainey in now down 1 run and hope that he can hold on? There's only 2 mounds there. You can't warm up 3 guys at once, so there was no in-between guy. It was, here's the closer in case we tie it or take the lead, or if not, here's the mop-up man if we're still trailing. I would have been fascinated to see how that all played out. In the end, he pitched well. Good for him. Let's see him again. There's no reason to wait that long to use him again. It's time to find out one way or the other. Can he salvage this? If not, they need to move on.
Yeah, you had arguably the high man on the Nats bullpen totem pole and the low man on the Nats bullpen totem pole warming up simultaneously. We've talked about this Rainey thing. This can't continue. He hadn't pitched since May 21st. Monday evening was June 3rd. You got to pitch him at some point. Otherwise, why do you have him on the major league roster like that? So I almost was like, yeah, put him in. This is ridiculous that we haven't seen him in this long. And sure enough, he ended up doing a decent job. So good for him. And hopefully there's more of that to come. Hey guys, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation, which has another great offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation is extending its semi-annual sale, 50% off all window styles, plus 0% interest for 5 years, and an additional bonus if you schedule an appointment between now and the end of this month. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you. Window Nation windows are the best. Add to the look, feel, and value of your home. Every Window Nation window undergoes a 50-point inspection before the window leaves the Window Nation factory. And know that Window Nation's vinyl windows can do everything that wood or composite windows can do, and at a fraction of the cost of wood and composite windows. Take advantage of this offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 50% off all window styles plus 0% interest for 5 years, and an additional bonus if you schedule an appointment between now and the end of this month. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90NATION or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It's the most fun and exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for your shot to win up to 100 times your cash. I made my first $10 deposit and received an instant $10 bonus. And if you have the skills, you can play for a shot of turning your $10 into $1,000. And playoff time is the best time to join the Prize Picks community of over 5 million members who have already downloaded the app. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the app today and use the code BLUEWIRE for a first deposit match up to $100. That's a first deposit match of up to $100 when you download the app and use the code BLUEWIRE. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
From grown-worthy dad jokes to patching up skinned knees, your dad is one of a kind. This Father's Day, give him a gift that is guaranteed to take him to his happy place. Omaha Steaks. Order mouth-watering gift packages starting at just $89 when you go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code NATSCHAT at checkout. Each package is backed by their unconditional money-back guarantee. Show your dad the love he deserves with a gift as unforgettable as he is. Visit omahasteaks.com, promo code NATSCHAT at checkout.
McGill delivers, swing and a line drive left field. That's a base hit. Gutierrez waving. Senzel's going to try and score. Nimmo's throw to the plate, out front, not in time, and offline. Senzel scores. It's an RBI single to left for Jesse Winker. The Nationals come right back and cash in on the drop ball by Bader. It's the Mets 1 and the Nationals 1 here with nobody out at the bottom of the second inning.
Well, the Nats lost this game despite a good game for their offense. 7 runs, 11 hits. Now, 10 of the 11 hits were singles, but the Nats did hit a home run, a rarity for these 2024 Nationals. They also drew a good number of walks, 4 walks. That was good to see. And the Nats went 3 for 10 with runners in scoring position. The Nats scored a run in the bottom of the second, 3 runs in the bottom of the fourth, a run in the bottom of the fifth, and 2 runs in the bottom of the ninth. Now, still no C.J. Abrams, still no Jacob Young. Abrams did not play for a 3rd consecutive game due to a left shoulder ailment. Jacob Young did not play for a 2nd consecutive game due to a right hand injury. I will ask you a similar question to what I asked you on the previous show. Are we thinking that injured list is a possibility for either guy, or does it still look like the Nats are going to avoid having to put either guy on an injured list?
I think they have to consider it more now than they did the previous day. Once you get past the 3-day mark, you better be able to play. If not, I think you have to look at the IL because you can only backdate these things 3 days. So each wasted day now extends the IL stint. We saw them do this with Keibert Ruiz earlier in the year, different circumstances, but it still came back to bite them. I think they need to be ready on Tuesday. If certainly Abrams, because that would be day 4 for him. If he can't go, I think you just go ahead and put him on the 10-day IL, get somebody else up here. Young, maybe you can wait one more day. We're getting mixed signals here because before the game, you're hearing, hey, they both say they're doing better. Maybe they would be available later on in the game. Well, after the game, Davey told us that neither of them was going to be available because there were opportunities, whether even just pinch running or pinch hitting, to use those guys in the ninth inning. The fact they were not used was a clear indication they were not ready for that. And so if they're not ready for it at this point, how confident are you that they're ready to come back and start a game the following day? I think they have to strongly consider, at least in Abrams' case, if he can't go on Tuesday, I think they need to be ready with somebody else here.
There may be no more frequently told lie by major league managers than when they, before games regarding injured starters, say, well, he's available to pinch hit. He's available to come off the bench. Those guys never pinch hit. They never come off the bench. And sure enough, that was the case in this game. Well, like I said, the Nats did homer in this game. Joey Gallo homered. Great to see that. Gallo has the Nats starting first baseman and number 8 batter, 1 for 3 with a 2-run homer and a walk. He and the Nats 3-run fourth, had a 2-out, 2-run homer to right field for a 4-3 Nats lead. Just Gallo's second home run since April 10th. And Gallo in the bottom of the 8th drew a 1-out walk. Jesse Winker had a big game. He is the Nats starting left fielder and number 6 batter. Got on base 4 times, 3 for 4 with 2 RBI singles, another single, and a walk. He did get thrown out in an attempted steal of second base, but Winker in the Nats 1-run second, an opposite field RBI single to left field to tie the game at 1. He then was thrown out in that attempted steal of second base for the 3rd out, but Winker in the Nats 3-run 4th, a 1-out single into right center field. Winker in the Nats 1-run 5th, a 2-out bases loaded walk to cut the Nats deficit to 7-5, and Winker in the Nats 2-run 9th, a 1-out RBI single into right field to cut the Nats deficit to 8-6. So good stuff from Gallo, good stuff from Winker. Lane Thomas as the Nats starting center fielder and number 1 batter, 2 for 5 with 2 singles and an outstanding outfield assist.
Is there a better outfield arm in baseball than Lane Thomas? His 4th assist of the year.
Top of the 3rd, Thomas generated an 8-5 double play for the first 2 outs. He made a great throw to third base to get Brandon Nimmo, who was tagging up from second base off a lineout by J.D. Martinez. That Lane Thomas arm, look, we know that it plays quite well in right field. That was some throw that he made as a center fielder.
It plays just as well in center field, Al. You could drop the perfect throw from center field to third base. That was it. One hop right to Nick Senzel, who just had to drop his glove and tag him out. And his throw later on the play that Barnes then wound up throwing it away, it was another good throw. Senzel just couldn't handle it, but it was another really strong throw from him. I think Lane Thomas, we have to think about this in terms of who the Nationals have had over the years in the outfield. They've maybe had guys with better arms in terms of throwing it harder or more dramatic kind of throws. I think Lane Thomas may be their most accurate outfield thrower that they've ever had. Bryce Harper could get him every once in a while, but he could also airmail him. Juan Soto has his moments, but I think Lane Thomas has shown now this ability to not just throw the ball with velocity, but to throw it right on target most of the time. And that's a really nice weapon to have, no matter if he's playing center field or right field. I want to talk about the Gallo homer. And actually, I want to talk about what preceded that, which is the Ildemaro Vargas play at first base. Busts down the line, dives into first base to try to avoid the double play. He's called out. They challenge the call. They get it overturned. If he had just run straight through it, he probably would have been safe originally. But we are not going to have that debate right now. But that set up Gallo to be able to come up in the next at bat and hit his home run. Only his 5th homer of the year. It's the first one, though, that he has hit that flipped a score from the opposing team leading to the Nationals leading. That's what they need more of. They need meaningful home runs from Joey Gallo. It was nice to see him deliver in a meaningful situation for them. You hope there are more of those to come.
You do, and Joey Gallo has the power to get what you call home run hot, right? To go on a tear where, like, over an 8-game stretch, he hits 6 home runs or something like that. And we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this. And that's why he's here. He's here to hit homers. Like, let's be honest. He hadn't done that nearly often enough, but maybe he's getting going here. Hey, Father's Day is coming up, so maybe that'll motivate Gallo to start hitting some home runs. Yeah, I'll say this about Ildemaro Vargas. He plays so hard, and he seemingly always gives you a good at-bat. And when he had that single, as he did in the 2-run 9th, the 1-out opposite field single through the left side of the infield to load the bases, watching that in real time, I was so certain he was going to get a hit. Like, that's what he does. He comes through in spots like that, and he's an impressive player. He's obviously not, a franchise cornerstone or anything like that. But if you have one at-bat in which you need a guy to come through with this Nats team this season, how many guys are you sending to the batter's box before Ildemaro Vargas? Not many, if any.
He might be number one on my list right now. In a perfect world, you're going to have others who are hopefully more of a sure thing than he is. But right now, I think he gives you your best chance at a quality at bat. He knows when to go with a pitch. He knows when to go the other way with it, when to drive it. He always is going to run hard down the line. There's something to be said for that. Every team needs somebody like that on the roster who can fill in, play a good, capable shortstop when C.J. Abrams is out, give you good quality at bats. And I think it says a lot that, as that game is playing out in the final innings, and Davey has to decide, okay, who on his bench is he going to use, who's available, when's he going to play those cards that he has? There's no thought to pinch hitting for Vargas, even though he is technically a backup. There was thought to pinch hitting, and he did pinch hit for Gallo to get the lefty-righty matchup with Joey Meneses instead, and then ultimately did not pinch hit for Drew Millas, the rookie backup catcher who came up with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the ninth. So Vargas has a status right now, and it's earned to be allowed to stay in there because you have a good feeling about his ability to come through with a quality at bat in that spot way more than a lot of other guys. And so you're not even thinking about pinch hitting for him, even though he's technically not an everyday player.
Also with a couple of hits in this game, Eddie Rosario. He is the Nats starting right fielder and number 2 batter, 2 for 4 with 2 singles and a walk.
Are you looking for tickets to an upcoming event? That's why you should download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. You get cheaper tickets, and it helps the podcast a bit. Sounds like a smooth 6-4-3 double play. Again, create an account and redeem the code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this podcast. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. At hundreds of locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/bluewire to learn more and find a center near you. That's unifydhealing.com/bluewire. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.
And now Diekman kicks, delivers the pitch to Meneses, swung on, hit high in the air to center field. It's deep. Bader's backing up. He has room, and shy of the track makes the catch. Coming down the line to score is Ruiz. Nasim Nunez tags, and he goes to third. It's a long sacrifice fly for Joey Meneses to drive in a run. 2 out now here in the bottom of the 9th inning. Runners on first and third, and the Nationals down a run. It's the Mets 8 and the Nationals 7.
I mentioned what happened with Drew Millas, him striking out looking on 3 pitches to end the game. So he in this game, the Nats starting catcher and number 9 batter. We wanted to see Drew Millas play. He did play. He was the starting catcher in this game. Do you think he's going to get the Riley Adams treatment in terms of playing time? So like once a series, he's the starting catcher with Keibert Ruiz as a designated hitter. Do you think it's safe to at least assume that?
I think he should get at least 1 per series. You're going to take Davey at his word. They want to find out what this guy can do and maybe give Ruiz some more opportunities to DH, as was the case in this game. You would like to see that. Now, let's be clear. Drew Millas did not have a very good game, offensively or defensively for that matter. Some of that was MacKenzie Gore being all over the place. And, it's tough for any catcher to block that stuff. But he also had opportunities to throw out runners. And my takeaway from that part of his game, which is supposed to be his strong suit, is that his arm was clearly stronger than Ruiz or Adams, but his aim was off. He threw 3 straight on stolen base attempts that went to the wrong side of the bag. And so I don't care how hard you throw it. If you don't throw it on target, that's not going to be enough. Now, it's one game. I'm not going to judge him too much on that. But I know there's been a lot of talk about Drew Millas for several weeks, and this guy needs to get a chance. He's the far superior defensive catcher to the other two. He may even be good enough offensively. It's one game, but that was not a great first impression of him the way this one went.
Thinking about the lineup for this game and who was doing what, so Keibert Ruiz was the designated hitter. The Nats this season at that DH spot between Ruiz and Meneses have gotten so little production. The Nats for this regular season have a total OPS at the designated hitter spot of 612, which is one of the worst in baseball. And, you think about that spot in the lineup logically, right? Designated hitter. It's supposed to be a guy who excels at hitting. And that has really hurt this team this season, getting such little production out of the DH spot. And, Davey Martinez, for whatever reason, bats these guys pretty high up in the lineups. And so you see them batting third, batting fourth, and game in, game out, just not much happening. I know Keibert did have a hit in this game. He drew actually a key hit by pitch in the 2-run ninth. But boy, that DH spot has not been a particularly productive one for the Nats so far this season.
Well, it hasn't been for several years. Since the DH came to the National League, they really have not done a great job with that. Nelson Cruz did not work out at all. Meneses last year, was okay, but not really the type of power hitter that you would expect from that spot. And, it's funny, you spend years building a team by the old National League rules, and you're not thinking about this. And all of a sudden, you do have to think about the fact that you don't have an 8-man lineup. You have a 9-man lineup, and you need 9 regulars in there. And the lineup that they've assembled and the options they have for the DH spot really have not come through in a manner that you would think you would need to have in the big leagues at this time. Now, again, a lot of their guys are struggling. And if, hitters start performing the way they're supposed to, maybe you can spread the DH at bats around. So it's not always the same ones. But that is I think a real disadvantage for them right now compared to other teams. They do not have a bona fide good hitting DH. And in the long run, once they are ready to win, you look in your mind, you think about, okay, who's the future left fielder? Who's the future first baseman? Who's the future shortstop? All this stuff. We don't ever talk about who's the future DH on this team. You just kind of forget about that or just assume, well, they'll have someone who takes on that role. I think they need to think of that role in terms of it's an important part of what you're trying to build here in the long run. And don't just ignore it and think, well, we can just stick anybody in that role.
Well, the modern approach has been, instead of having an every game DH, you use that as a spot for rotation. So you give guys days off from playing the field, and, you don't just have your David Ortiz or Edgar Martinez. I mean, if you have a guy like that, great. But by and large, it's hey, let's have some flexibility and not just have one guy who gets slotted into that DH spot game in, game out. I mean, I've always thought of it as the Nats have this abundance of outfield prospects. Whoever is the weakest of them in the field maybe ends up being your most of the time designated hitter long term. But, we'll see. I mean, these guys have to prove themselves adept at hitting at the major league level. I think it's a tricky game to play because you want offensive production at that spot. But at the same time, I think it is appealing to have that as kind of an open spot. And you can sort of do some mixing and matching with who is your DH in a given game. I mean, I do like it. You have a guy like Jesse Winker, who's been one of the Nats' better batters this season. We've seen him in the DH spot a decent amount. That, I think, is a good usage of that spot. But these other guys who've been there, Meneses and Ruiz, just have not come through at all. And that's unacceptable. I mean, you can't have that. You should not have a team designated hitter OPS of 612. That is brutal.
No. And maybe there's a point this year as the kids finally start coming up that somebody like Winker can take on that role a little more regularly. And that should be an indication that they're better defensively as well if they have him DHing. I agree with you. In a perfect world, you can rotate around that spot and give guys pseudo days off. But to do that, they've got to think in terms of they don't need just 8 everyday players. Ultimately, they're going to need 9 everyday players to mix and match and do that. And I just don't want anybody to forget about that part of it as you try to map this out for the future of who's really going to be on this team on a daily basis in a year or two from now. Don't forget the DH spot because it is an important spot.
Game 2 for the Nats against the Mets at Nationals Park Tuesday evening at 6:45. Trevor Williams will be the Nats starting pitcher. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can visit our website. We invite you to do that, natschatpodcast.com, in which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
Picture this. You're not just fixing cars, you're living your passion every day. At Cox, you'll work on a diverse range of automobiles. Surrounded by a team of friendly, like-minded individuals, you'll enjoy great pay and benefits. Ready to make this a reality? At Cox, we're recruiting auto and diesel techs to join our Mannheim and Fleet Services teams. Learn, grow, and fine-tune your career as a technician at Cox. Find out more at cox.career/autotech.